to another Kilroy's Key 3. I'm trying to get through 2022 in time to do New to Me 2022, and today we're doing medieval war games. As part of this series, I'm presenting my point of view, which is P for presentation, O for operation, and V for value. And the three games that I came up with for my top three new to me in the medieval category are, as you can see from this top map here, Saladin, which was sent to me from Shakos, so I want to thank them for that. Nubia, Egypt's Black Heirs from White Dog Games, and Almoravid from GMT Games, which again, want to thank them for this. And this is part of the Levy and Campaign series. This is volume 2. The first one was Nevsky, and these are designed by Volko Rutke. And there's going to be more coming out in this series, and a lot more. Not all of them are going to be designed by Volko in that regard. So these are the three in the medieval space that were new to me in 2022 that rose to the cream of the crop. So let's start with presentation, which presentation is, box art, maps, counters, components, player aids, anything that goes to the overall presentation or look and feel of the game. And so I always like to kind of start with the maps themselves, if there is a map in the game. And this is the map for Saladin, and there's actually two battles in this game that you can play. And so there's two different, the board is double-sided, it is mounted. And this is what I have started calling, and I don't know if it's going to catch on or not, but this is, to me, is kind of a static battle, meaning that it's a predisposed battle where this is the way the units are all lined up. This is the only places where the units can go. They can't move through hexes or move anywhere else around the board other than to these from and to these locations, or be eliminated from these locations. And that's the core of the game, is eliminating units from this location. That's usually how you win these. A lot of the static battles that have come out in 2022 actually started at the end of 2021, and that's with the Worthington games, the Worthington book games, game books, or whatever you want to call it. I kind of tend to call those static battles. The Waterloo, the Braveheart, and a lot of those in that same vein, where they were kind of the positions are kind of set, and you're just moving, either eliminating units or moving units to those preset positions. Worthington also has other games, in that series, like Freedman's Farm and Chancellorville. But again, I call static battles is almost more of a mechanic representation as opposed to a series or system, because a lot of different people use this. This is a Shakos game in that regard. So a very nice presentation on the map in that regard. The bits are these wooden planks, and there's some circular units that are going to be use these planks to represent the different forces on the map itself. There's special dice. These are wood for the combat portion of the game. And then there are cards, and this is kind of a card play game on how you move forces around in their different static positions on the board. And these are very nice cards. They're tarot size almost, a little bit larger, good thickness. To me, the art is somewhat evocative of the medieval times or Middle Ages, or whatever you want to call it there. And so that is the component. So nice components. This is a relatively somewhat tight game. That's all the components. You just have two different maps, and there you have the cards and the wooden bits. Next I have here is Nubia. This one is from White Dog Games, and if you're familiar with White Dog Games, they're sourced by a third party, a Blue Panther. So they tend to come in these boxes like this. The counters are usually laser cut, and in this case, the map is just paper in that regards. And if it looks a little bit busy, but this is based on the old Victory Point Games States of Siege system, where everybody's kind of converging to Soba, and you're trying to protect your empire, which is the three medieval black Christian countries or kingdoms of that period, and trying to stave off the invaders that are coming in. It's not as simple as some of the traditional States of Siege games. This one's got a little bit more complexity to it. White Dog tends to put a little bit more complexity to their games. But as far as the components go, the cards, in a lot of the States of Siege games, is you have to survive. You get a big deck of cards, and you win the game by going through that whole deck and surviving without someone taking your center, right? That's an oversimplification of the game. But the cards are, just like the counters, are on this extra thick stock, as you can see here. Very, very thick cards here. I hadn't seen that before, and so and this is really the heart of the game. You'll be flipping over these decks and reading off what happens, and that might move somebody, it might enter somebody on this board, or move them along the track, or you can affect them in other ways depending on what's going on with the game. So, for White Dog games, which are kind of no frill, anything produced by Blue Panther is relatively no frills type stuff, but decent. I mean, it's those cards are nice. The counters are typical, and then this map board is very functional. Although a lot going on as far as visually on that map board, as you can see. The next one that I've come up with out of New2Me in the medieval space is Almoravid, which is from part of the second in the Levian Campaign series. And the unique thing about the Levian Campaign series is it's operational. It's very operational. There's a lot of supplies going on. It's a lot of planning for multiple seasons and going into a new year. It's dealing with the whole levy portion of it is your forces might not stick with you. You've got to supply them or pay them, or try to keep them in line for your efforts that you're trying to plan for the next operations or for the next season, and they go away. So or might go away. So there's a lot going on in this other than just a pure movement to have combat. There's a lot of logistics and somewhat of an abstract political system in the whole levy situation. As far as presentation goes, it's a mounted map. It's a very nice mounted map. It's point to point, but it's kind of done through these very nice graphics of the cities. You have different types of strongholds, whether it's a city or a fortress or a town or a castle. I mean, depending on, those all have different effects on the game, on different supply and defense and the like. This is kind of your turn track. There's basically a couple of different seasons. You'll check for victory, and then you do your levies, and then you'll just move on. And then some of the nobles that are on this track will either come into play, or this also keeps track of when they're supposed to leave play. And then that you can adjust that either up, they'll leave either earlier, or you can try to extend them out. And again, that's based on the different scenarios that you play here. So the map is, I think it's graphically appealing, and I believe that it's kind of evocative of the medieval period, seeing these castles and the like. It's very, very nice in that regard. The components are, a lot of different types of components. I mean, one of the nicest things about these are these cards here. Here is Il Cid. Gotta like that. So it shows their banner, and then it shows some of their key stats, their service, leadership, command, and kind of what they start out with. Your units are represented by little wooden bits, depending upon, like the triangles or whatever, or like knights or mounted units. And then you've got, militia and infantry and men-at-arms and all the like. But there's all these different these very, very thick player boards, which are basically, the forces that you're fighting with. And, and you keep track of what they have, what's active, what's routed, and then any kind of logistics. This is where you keep track of your carts and your mules, your coins, and anything extra, assets and vassals for these different units. And so very graphically appealing, very nice, as you can see that. The bits are good wood in here. Here's some of those knights I was talking about, the different colors. And then your men-at-arms and your foot soldiers and the like, and the militia are in here as well. So, really good counters, or as I said, wooden bits. There's also counters to represent certain things like your supplies and your logistics and what have you as well. There's also cards in the game that's basically you're going to be planning out your actions. This is one of those games where you kind of have to plan ahead and then see how each of the different forces, what your opponent planned as well, and how you react to that. So there's like these command cards that will tell you who's going. Like you'll put down a hand of cards or a number of cards depending on what your forces are. And then this is the order when you flip these over of what they're going to do. And so the board state can change. It's a little bit of pre-programming. You might plan to do certain things, but the board state might have changed by the time that command comes around for that extra person. So, that's the game here, right? You can pass, and there's these cards for each of the different nobles or leaders that you have on the board. And then you have some extra special action. These are Arts of War card that are special for the different forces as well. And there's two sides to it and how you use that as well. But these are kind of an added feature, like a little bit of Fog of War, little special abilities that go on in the game as well. And these cards are very nice. They're typical GMT fashion. They're not thin. They're decent thickness. A little stiff, but no linen finish on that. So those are the components. Those are that's the presentation of the three games. And so with that, let's get to the chest of keys and see who's getting what this time around. So you have Almoravid. God, I keep on messing that up every time I say it. Nubia. God, I'm getting so excited. I'm starting to hit the board here. And then you've got Saladin. So presentation wise, this is probably going to be no surprise to you, but I'm going to go with Almoravid on this one. The Levian Campaign Series number 2 is going to get the 3 keys. The second one's going to get Saladin just because it's just a higher quality of components and presentation in that. Next comes Operation. Now, Operation is a combination of several things. It's the rules, it's the gameplay, how easy it's to play, how well does it fit with the situation that it's trying to simulate, but it's the overall operation of the game in that regard. And in this case, to me, as far as ease of play, I think Saladin was the easiest, followed by Nubia, and then this one, Moravid, takes a little bit getting into. The Levian Campaign Series is not overly complex. However, it's different. It's a different kind of system, and it's some that takes a little bit of investment to get into. And so if you're not getting it to the table on a regular basis, it's a little bit of pick up and figure out, right? Because it's not your standard hex encounter or anything like that. There's again a much greater emphasis on the levy side of keeping track of your leaders and nobles and then also the supply side or the logistics side. You can really overextend yourself really quick. You can try to have a lot of plans for a nice big action or a combination of actions, but you're going to run out of resources pretty quick. And so there's a lot of planning to that game. So although I think the rules do it nicely, again, it just takes a little bit getting into. So in that regard, kind of going to go with a little bit of a twist here. I'm going to give the 3 keys to Saladin. Just because to me it's a more crisp and clean type system. Next is going to go to two, going to go to Nubia, and then the 1 key is going to go to Almoravid. Sorry, I need to get me some libation here. Just because, based on the complexity of what it's trying to do, it just takes a little bit more getting into it. Finally is value. That deals with, replayability, how well does it sim the situation, and the like. And in that regard, I'm going to give out the 1 key first, and that is going to go to Nubia. This is very abstract. I mean, all the states to siege systems get relatively abstract. This is nice how it adds a little bit of flavor and a little bit more context and the history of this situation. I mean, you are going for, 400, 500 years almost here, a period of this part of the world. And so that's more than just the states of siege track. There's a lot more going on in this game, and you learn a lot of history there. But at the end of the day, it's still relatively abstract. The same is true for Saladin. It's relatively abstract as well, and you're just dealing with 2 battles there. Although those 2 battles with the variety of cards, or the randomness of the cards and some of the dice roll, there is still quite a bit of gameplay there. I mean, this is pretty close, in my opinion, between these 2. However, the one that I think clearly wins out is Almoravid, because there's a campaign game in this as well as several scenarios. So each of the scenarios have quite a bit of gameplay in it, based on what kind of commands you want to issue and what happens with the different events. So each of the scenarios have quite a bit of gameplay in them, but then you also have a full campaign game and trying to play it all the way through, which has a lot more variety and a lot more going on in that regard. So that's how I'm going to come out this time around. Again, your mileage may vary. Love to know your thoughts on it. Love to know what your point of view are on any of these games, or something else that's new to you in the medieval space that I should have picked up and should have played this year. Again, this is limited to New2Me, which is something that I've either acquired and played, or just played for the first time in 2022. So let's go through the keys here. We've got Nubia with 1, 2, 3, 4 keys. Saladin with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no, that's not right. I got too many keys here for Saladin. So I think that Saladin had, I think they had 2 keys, 3 keys. Yeah, there's 1 extra key there on Saladin for some reason. I'll have to go back and look at the tape. So Saladin has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 keys. I think I got an extra 1 in there. And Almoravid, golly, can I ever get that one right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, which makes it this one coming in first, second, and third in this case. But I mean, depending on what you're trying to play, if you want specific battles during the Crusade, so to speak, this one, and looking at them in a different perspective, then this might be your game. If you're looking for a little bit more expansive time frame and kind of a castle defense or states of siege where you're trying to hold something off but also learn the history, then maybe this is your cup of tea. If you want something that's a little bit more crunchy, into the nuts and bolts of the logistics, into the nuts and bolts of trying to keep your forces together and trying to manage when someone's going to be, coming in or going out of your forces, and trying to plan that alongside with all the logistics for the campaign, and then figuring out the different objectives that you need to do for either that scenario or for the campaign game of taking over certain of these cities and locations. This is your game. This is a much deeper, crunchier game than any of these two. These two can play relatively quickly. You can this, and I probably should note, this is a solitaire game. This is a 2-player, and this is basically 2-player. You can play this solitaire, but you're playing it 2-handed, right? You're just playing both sides. But this is very crunchy. So this one you can play in an hour or so. I mean, once you know the rules, you can probably maybe even play this under an hour, give or take, you know, how fast you want to go through it. And if you're reading the history and all that, this one, it takes about an hour or less. I mean, this does not take that long. In fact, on the board, I think they say that this takes 45 minutes, and that's about right. Once you understand the rules of this, you can go through that relatively quickly. This one's going to take some time, mainly to pick up the rules and to teach, but also to play the game, because this is, again, especially if you're playing the longer scenarios or the campaign game, this is going to take a little bit of your time, but it's well worth the investment. Anyway, that's what I have for you today. Hope you're all doing well. Love to know your point of view on these or any other games in the medieval space. This was new to me in 2022. Thanks for stopping by. Take care. Thanks for watching.